Good day to all of you, and welcome to the Wipro Private Cloud Experience session. My name is Ramprasad. I'm the Chief Technologist who has been leading the private cloud implementation at Wipro. And I will walk you through the journey of building the private cloud, as well as share some learning from the technology, people, and the process perspective. The Wipro private cloud development started a few years ago in what is now called the Grid Computing Center of Excellence. And the team was working on dynamic provisioning solution. And during the course of this time, x86 virtualization became mainstream and widespread. And the teams integrated grid computing and virtualization technologies to create a private cloud. If you look back at the kind of requirements or the characteristics that was driving the need for a private cloud, essentially there are many pockets of locations. Look at the drivers and the characteristics. Essentially, it is driven from the server sprawl, the low utilization, and the lock-into applications without agility. Technically, we have more than 100,000 employees with about 60,000 plus software developers. There are thousands of servers used for development, staging, and testing. And in addition, we have servers that host our own IT apps. These servers are spread over several locations. And there are hundreds of labs which house these servers. So this was the first problem, the server sprawl. 100,000 plus employees, 60,000 plus software developers, server sprawled all over the location. The second aspect is about utilization. We did the analysis in a few labs and found that the average utilization of servers was less than 15%. Projects do not really use as much capacity as they had provisioned. And there were several servers which were simply turned on and not even accessed and used. Some of these would remain running throughout the year and just spend energy on that. So there was a great deal of spare capacity, considering that only about 15% capacity was utilized. And in spite of that, we could not put in new applications because of the silos that these environments were created. And as ever, there was always a need for new server procurement, and there was plenty of opportunity for consolidation in the energy space as well. And then if you look at agility, most of the servers were logged into applications. You couldn't install new applications on this. There was a great diversity of technologies. There were all kinds of operating systems, from Linux to Windows to Solaris x86, to various flavors of Unix and things like that. So there were diversified workloads, lack of agility, server sprawl, things like this. Networking primarily was another challenge, is that we would be in multiple server locations, and each of these locations would have their own server setup, and these locations would need to use these effectively. So these are the typical characteristics we looked at when we wanted to set up a private cloud. If you look at the approach that we took, how did we go about creating the private cloud? Obviously, the first most important things which came to our mind was, how do we do this? Do we set up in a single location? There are things like, can we do it on a single data center, set up a cloud, and can all the locations access? What should be the architecture? What should be the virtualization technology it supports? How do we do the provisioning of images onto the environment? Should it be on VMware, Citrix? Should we use a Zen open source kind of an environment? What will be the needs of developers? And what kind of hardware do we use? Existing hardware? We had plenty of existing hardware which was underutilized. Can we use them? Or should we need to buy something completely new? So these were the typical challenges that that the opportunity thought about, and this is the approach that we have taken, is that we decided that we need to look at various various virtualization technologies. At that point of time, there were not many virtualization management tools available. There were plenty of hypervisor environments, but the management layers were technically missing. So we embarked on a journey to take a set of open source components and develop our own cloud solution on the top of these open source components. So that was the first, initial trials of trying out the technology, selecting various things that we decided. Obviously, once we had to integrate these private cloud technologies of virtualization and load balancing, we would have to do a proof of concept to prove that these things are relevant, they have the right environment, easy to manage, can scale and perform within for the needs that we have. So these are various phases of the project. There was a cloud technology evaluation phase. There was a proof of concept developed, and then further to that, a private cloud solution was put in place, which was deployed for test and development environment. And then to harden the environment, we had to roll out our own internal IS applications as a proof of the pudding and eating our own dog food. We tried most of our internal IS applications onto the private cloud. Now we are in the phase of rolling out the cloud solution across all locations. At the end of the presentation, I will share data about what are the locations, how many locations we currently in, and how we will scale it out over a period of time. So when we started doing the cloud technology evaluation, we also wanted to find candidate project teams which would be amenable to use the private cloud. Most importantly, the groups which had to use the private cloud were supposed to be teams which could, use an experimentation setup, tolerate the kind of scenarios a hack work would create in, and that would not be very mature. So we chose what we call the centers of excellence. The CTO organization had more than 50-plus centers of excellence, which was reporting to them, and the agenda of the centers of excellence were driven by the CTO office. And these were teams which would try out new things, innovate, push the envelope of thinking, and they would be okay to use an experimentation setup. And so we chose this team, which were essentially the centers of excellence and the solutions team, to be the first users of this cloud setup. Going on, let's see how we set this up. We looked at the technology selection, and these are the various functional blocks that we identified, driven from the basic characteristics that I talked about earlier. These are the various functional blocks. We wanted to create some kind of a self-service environment to employees so that any employee could sign on into a website and be able to provision compute, let's say storage, network, and capacity, compute access, without having to go through any other process steps or interaction with any other department. So the first thing that we wanted to do was create this. In terms of technologies, we went around various project teams and found that there was a great need for support of multiple hypervisors. There would be teams which would prefer VMware. There would be other teams which